You're like heavily connected, like with one of the strongest hip hop eras or time frames, and especially on the West Coast with your dealings with like Death Row artists and everything. Were you actually signed to Death Row, or I know you did like a lot of work for them? So what's the story behind that?
Well, the relationship came later, but the connection to Death Row is an incredible and intelligent and powerful entrepreneur investor himself, and that's Mr. Harry L. From
Okay,
Los Angeles, California. You
right.
know, grew up in South Central where the Bounty Hunters was and still
Mm-hmm.
is to this day. And a mutual friend that was with him when he was alive, God bless his soul, Andre Harris. Him and Jay King from Club Nouveau had their ears and eyes on me the last day of mixing Domino's album. I'm in there. It's just me and the engineer at Skip Sailor recording in Los Angeles, and they actually saw me and heard that I needed some representation and management that I didn't have, and they
Uh-huh.
obliged to coexist with me and help me. And so I found out later that this was the same man who put the money up to start the machine going before they went to Interscope. This is the man who put the 1.5 or 8 million up
Right.
so they could facilitate food and some living expenses and clothes and studio recording.
Was this prior to Death Row blowing up, or they was
This
on
was
the?
in the making. Cause see, you
Okay.
gotta understand when Dre first did the Chronic, I was producing too, but Banging the Wax was out at the same time, and we was both shopping. So
Right.
we just met at the top, and my only peers that I knew from the Death Row era was Dre. I didn't know Snoop
Okay.
and all that he brought to the table, which was his relatives, Das and RBX. Uh,
Right.
but I been knew Corrupt. Corrupt grew up in my hood. You know what I'm saying? So I was doing his demos and all that. But to stay on point on the question you asked about Death Row, my relationship to Death Row is Harry L. And
Mm.
finding out later that this man was successful in keeping his eyes on great things that exist, like he did with Denzel Washington, you know, uh, funding his career. He did the same with me. He helped show me my value. I didn't know my value until I was in a situation with the Domino album. Now that album was out without my permission and no contracts in place.
What?
So he didn't want me to sue, and that would have put me on the shelf. It was another opportunity of Russell Simmons getting behind a West Coast artist and producer. I didn't really look at it like how he looked at it because I was just in it for the love and I wasn't educated. So he taught
Right.
me how to have a broad perspective about things that I'm venturing into. So
Mm-hmm.
he said, "Cat, let's wait. Let Russell Simmons work the record." And then I understood about the quarters, 3, 6, 9, 12. You know, there's 4 quarters in the
And
distribution and how a record is worked. And
right.
so I waited, and we did a cease and desist, and stopped everything, and did uh, uh, what they call it, where they check the books.
Uh,
And when they did that,
a
I
audit.
found out what the yeah audit. Yeah,
Uh
I
huh.
found out what the budget was, which was almost 400,000, and it's about a little bit over 300 and some thousand, almost 400K. I did 9 out of 10. Now, remember now, I'm not knowing about publishing and what my value was. I probably would have did the whole album for $1,500 or $1,000. But let me
Mm-hmm.
get to the point of that relationship with Death Row.
Right.
When he taught me the value after me finally understanding what I was entitled to,
Right.
then I walked away from about 100, maybe of not $175,000 out of a $300,000 budget that went to two things: studio, the recoupment of what the independent label put into it, or even promotions. But I walked away with that number, and then he said, "That's what your value is. You're worth $20,000 to $25,000 a track because you did 9 out of 10. AMG did the last record, but that was ingenious and incredible and big brother of him to do that and show me, because I didn't learn from the Jews. I didn't learn from anyone else. I didn't learn from anyone white or anything, even though it wouldn't have mattered what color and creed, but not bad for someone who was sitting inside of the penitentiary doing all this time. He was very educated about how it go. So
right.
The next opportunity was that connected me with Death Row, that Nate Dogg album was up next to be produced.
Okay.
So at that time, Suge Knight and Harry O was tight, and we was all over the phone on the phone. And I was going to do side B, and Dr. Dre was going to do side A. That would have been interesting to hear my sound, because little did I know that Nate Dogg and Domino used to be in a group called Perfection back in the days, not 213, Perfection, and they had about Snoop Dogg was in it, Nate Dogg, Domino, and I think someone else.
Okay.
So that's when my beginning tie started, and I seen Snoopy prior to that too, thanks to DOC, because when they was working on the Chronic and they went to the store, we bumped heads at the store, and DOC introduced me to Snoop, but I didn't hook up with him then because I wasn't ready to be with Death Row, because I was still trying to figure me out, and I heard that it was, something that I wasn't ready to deal with, like Bloods and Crips together in business. I didn't know Suge, so I wasn't ready for that. And plus, I come out the hood I'm from, which is 60, the Rolling 60s, not as a gangbanger, but that's my family, because they raised me and they made it safe for me to become Battlecat, the DJ and the producer. So I had them with me. But that was my first introduction through Harry O and the connection with Death Row. That's how it started.
Did you ever get have to decide oh man, I don't want to produce this because I want to stay loyal to Harry O, but people on Death Row trying to have you do production? Did you ever get kind of in the middle where you kind of had to decide your where do my loyalties lie, or any of that?
No, because he had Dre. You gotta understand, Suge had Dre, so that was cool. Even though he was hearing me, Suge was hearing me coming, but I was already Harry O's client and family, so he didn't really need me like that. Yeah, he definitely had his own thing going. He was moving strong, and so supposedly they was in a cool situation so far, and it potentially was going to happen. But then, like I said, the fame, the money, the power, all that was taking its place, and so that never happened. And later on, we start to hear a bunch of events of things that was taking place with Death Row that we never thought would take place like that, but it happened. A lot of violence, a lot of, just a lot of things that didn't really complement the machine. And this was before Tupac got there. But
man,
that's what it is, when you don't have that family structure and brotherhood. It was a lot of egos and fast money, fast cars, just the life. Everything was coming too fast. So, and then they wanted to be successful and dominant, as they should. And we all had our moment like that. So I'm not here to judge on none of that. But the reality of what it was obvious, because people seen it, whenever the entourage would go to awards or performances and all that, they seen how Death Row was moving, and it was a force to be reckoned with, so it is what it is.
Right, definitely. Okay, so you work with it's almost too many artists to try to name them all off right now, but I want to focus on 3 artists particularly, and I want you to kind of compare working with each one of them. So I want to ask you, what was it like to work with Tupac? What was it like to work with Dr. Dre? And what's it like to work with Snoop Dogg?